All right, let's do okay, the recorder's on. Let's do a quick roll call. We've got myself, I'm the chairman. Tom Leahy, he's vice chairman. Janet Wantage is the treasurer, sitting right across there. Matt Forehand has got COVID, and he's had some kind of surgery too, so he's not in good shape, so he won't be here tonight. You'll need to keep him in your prayers because it sounded like it was pretty serious. Because he had some kind of surgery and then he winds up getting COVID on top of that. So, you know, usually those kind of things they're bad enough one at a time without that. Carol's here. Larry Pence, Terry Scally, Diane Potomac. We missed you last month, but I bet you didn't miss us very much. And Mike Clements. Okay. Let's see. We've got Tom Hawquist, District Attorney is Hans Wall, and Shirley Phillips, District Secretary. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance. Administrative announcements. Carol has suggested back in probably December, January that we try to do something similar to what the county does. And Mike was gracious enough to pick up some cards out of the where they have their county commissioners meetings. And well, I don't know. This is too much like reading instructions that are more than what I had cut ours back to. But whatever. We'll see what it says. It says the board or any commission. We're going to change it. That's what I'm getting at. We'll change this and scale it back and not waste as much time, but still maintain control. Because even our last meeting, I'm not going to call any names, but even our last meeting, we said that if you want to talk, then you need to fill out a piece of paper. It's a different piece of paper. It's still the same piece of paper that's up there. This one has got a card on the back that says public comment. And then this is in a public hearing, your name, address, you could do it as optional, email address, that sort of thing. Then you say what you're going to talk about, but then you got to get up to the microphone because we're recording these things. And that does two things. One is we got a good recording. Two is we don't have everybody talking at the same time. Because that's what happened to us last time, and every time that I've violated my own policy and says, this is the way we're going to do it, and if I deviate from that, every time it's wound up biting me in the butt. Where you said, why'd you do that to yourself? So it's not anybody's fault except mine. So we've got to maintain control, or we'll do several things. We'll get people irritated. We'll waste a lot of time. We won't get good recordings. Anyway, that's.
The public gets to address us first if it's a topic they want to talk about.
Oh, is that the way it works?
And usually, when you go down to the county, they do a time specific if it's a really hot topic, something that everybody's interested in. They'll say instead of at large, we're going to talk about that at 7 o'clock, so that if somebody has to go home before. If they spoke about, well, then they get a chance to do that. We would move the topic up later so that they can have their opinion heard.
Well,
Yeah.
so the county, as long as it's on the agenda, you can get up and talk about it. But you can't pull a Mr. Otto and start talking about random stuff.
Well, this was a topic that we were going to talk about changing the way we do the meeting, but I'm not sure that makes total sense to do it just like you just described there. I've been to one meeting there. I believe that people need to be able to talk about what they want to talk about, and I know that the Lake Lark situation was a big deal. That a lot of people from Lake Ashbury went to city council meetings and asked to speak about that for many sessions, and it worked out all right. I would think that in our agenda, the things that are going to be are important, are going to continue to be important for some period of time, or what is happening with the rehabilitation of the dams. And when I say that as far as I'm concerned, that's a priority. And that's why we did the assessment increase in this year to 2,400 from 600. I pay that too. I don't like it. So if you said, is it going to win a popularity contest? No, but we've got to do what we've got to do until we get some other sources of funding. And so that which would probably be the second item on priorities would be the funding. You know, Janet is working with Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn was sub to Hanson, who we hired to do the whole rehabilitation deal. And Kimley Horn is working, and Janet is our contact for our board in dealing with Kimley Horn. So that would be the second thing that if I was a public person sitting there instead of here, then I would want to know about. I would want to know about what's happening with the dams, what's happening with the funding, because that's going to be what drives us getting to do the projects that need to be done, and then secondly, at some point in time, influencing what the tax assessment is. So I'd want to know about that. The third thing that I would want to know about is, gee whiz, particularly the North Lake last year in the summertime was a disaster from a weed standpoint. So I would want to know what's going on with that. What's an update on that? And the silt. What are you calling silt? The dirt. So you're sort of talking about dredging then? Or are you talking about, okay. Now, we have $100,000 in our budget this year to address some engineering concepts and that sort of thing on dredging. That's all we have in our budget for addressing that. There is other money, but I'll make this statement right now, even though I'm out of order, we still, until we get to the point where we know how we're going to fund our projects, we're not spending a bunch of money. I know Tom said a few meetings ago that we had another $500,000 in this year's budget, but wasn't that long ago that our treasurer at the time said if we have to get a bank loan that was tied to a line of credit type loan, which is still a possibility, then the Bank of America, I believe is who he specifically mentioned, wanted $1 million escrow. So if you take our balance today that Janet's going to talk about in a minute and think about that, if you got to come up with $1 million escrow, now what's your balance? So I don't claim to be an expert on any of that or anything I'm talking about, but we certainly we've got to watch our money for right now. We've got to keep pushing on Kimley Horn and Hanson to get some kind of grants going and/or appropriation request. Appropriation request was better than the grants, the way it was explained at our last meeting, because that doesn't have a percentage. It's 100%. So that's, I guess we'll get into this later, Carol, as far as details of how this works, because I think that we as a board need to go through the items that we want to talk about. If we want to talk about an update on rehabilitation and somebody's got questions about it, then we as a board, if we need to before we make a motion, then we should give them an opportunity to say, hey, y'all are thinking about this, but have you considered this or that or the other? And just do that before we get into actually voting, making a motion and voting on it. But that's just my opinion. We'll talk about that. That's on the agenda for later as to how we change the process. I'm not going to read these things that tell you to be good little boys and girls and all that sort of thing. I'm not going to do that. We'll change that. But I'll make one statement one more time, then I won't mention it again. But that this thing, the way it's written on this outline here, used to be posted right there on that wall in 2 different places. And it was, one of them was dated 2008, one of them was dated 2011. And I didn't write it, I wasn't even here in that time. I'd gone to probably, I don't know where I was at then. Might have been Chicago or somewhere like that, if you believe that. But anyway, so, we're supposed to go into, I think right now, where we're at, we gotta go to, I'm not gonna read any of these. Yeah, we got minutes from last month to approve. Any comments on the minutes? Any disagreements? Anything need to be changed? There's a few little minor things that if I wanted to, I could complain about, but I'm not going to. So I'll just leave it, it ain't worth it, so I'll just leave it at that. So we need a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Carol makes the motion,
I'll second.
Tom seconds. All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, 8-0. Okay, treasurer's report. Janet?
Where is it?
I emailed it to you.
Okay, on the LAMSA email? Okay, one moment, please.
Thank you. Okay, our balance is February 1st, 2023, was $15,000. Transfer from the public funds money market was also $15,000. Prior month's checks, which were previously approved, was $13,647.98. Prior month's check, not on the prior list, was a bank charge for $25 for an account verification fee. Okay, balance as of February 31st.
It's actually 28th.
I'm sorry?
It's actually 28th.
28th, oh, yes. I didn't catch that one, sorry. February 28th was $15,000, and we have currently outstanding checks, number 3835 all the way down to 3841 for Shirley Phillips, Coven Gonzalez, Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, Forest Groundworks, Hanson Professional Services, Lay's Valve and Pump Repair, Tom Hawquist, CPA, and Clay Electric Cooperative for a total of $16,085.06. Okay, our current general checking account balance is $2,724.98. Public funds money market checking account was $1,275,517.23. Prior month's deposit is $20,744.64. We did a transfer of $15,000, and our interest was $1,779.40. Okay, our balance as of February 28th is $1,283,041.27. Current month's transfer was $15,000 again, and our current public funds money market checking account balance is $1,268,041.27 for the total funds balance of $1,270,766.25. So I make a motion to approve checks 3835 through 3841 as shown on the screen.
Any questions? Second. Second? Okay, Larry said. Any questions, comments?
I guess the
that's come this month.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we got a motion and a second to approve it? Got a very second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. One of the things, I think one of the things that, if I read this thing right, Janet, we got about 20,000 of income. Is that, I would assume that's probably from taxes,
Yes,
but that's wages all the way off, that's correct. So it should be.
yeah.
So our balance will continue to be down on the computer,
Yes, sir.
We got another $100,000 to collect.
100,000.
We can do that. Just know that I may not be able to do that timely because of my work schedule.
Yeah, well, right now, I'm the only one that can do it. And when we had the change where Diane came into the board, then we didn't have anybody could do it. So we can have 2 or 3 people. I think we need 2 at least.
I say 3.
Huh?
3.
Well, we could,
We need an heir and a spare and a spare.
then we could follow the same pattern we got on signing checks and have the vice chairman, if he wanted to do it.
Yeah, no problem.
I know how to make it happen with our accounts to make that happen, but I guess we would need some kind of approval from the board to make that happen, just like we did last month with the signatures. So I would propose that we give Janet and Tom Leahy the ability to transfer funds from our money market account to our normal checking account. I would make that motion. A second?
Second.
Jerry, you seconded? All right, any discussion about it? It's really not that hard to do, but it's. Yeah, yeah, I do it over the laptop. Yeah. Okay, any more discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, thanks. All right. Any staff reports? Tom? Okay, Hans?
No, sir.
Shirley?
No, sir.
Okay. The next item on the agenda was the drawdown policy. We talked about that a few times, and we've changed it and never got it to a final stage yet. And that's the drawdown when we have a tropical storm or we have a hurricane coming. What do we do? And Tim Lee is with Lee's Pump and Valve is the guy that does all the work for us. It seems like a simple process, but it's not. So Matt was the guy that was drafting everything up, and we had additional changes listed in the minutes of our meeting that were supposed to be incorporated into the procedure, and I haven't seen that. Have any of you seen it? No. So we can't do anything with it, other than what I would like to do is I would like to give Tim the latest proposal that we've got and ask him to weigh in on that by putting his comments about what we are to do there. As an example, when we had one of the hurricanes, the one that wound up in Fort Myers, we drew the lake down, 12 inches, something like that, to North Lake. And it took 30 days to get it back up. When we did that, we had never done what we did before. And our procedure says to do that, and I don't like it personally, because it says if you look at the state of Florida and now you say, I'm in the sphere of the cone, that's all these 15 different lines that make up working this thing go. Well, if we're in that sphere of the cone, then it says start taking action. That's not what we've done in the past. What we've done in the past is if we were in a hurricane watch, that triggered action. And then when you got to the warning, that triggered additional action. So that's what I think we need to do. The other problem that you get into with drawing these lakes down is you've got a 16-inch and a 14-inch valve on the North Lake. You've got a 20-inch valve on the South Lake, and you got a 12-inch valve on Lake Ryan. You start opening the South Lake valve and you start opening Lake Ryan and you hadn't got water going out at North Lake or it down some, you had a problem. You guys that are fixing to build a house there will experience that. So that is something that it seems pretty straightforward, but it's really not. So I think Tim has done it enough that he knows, like if you open a valve a certain amount, how much that lake's going to go down in what time frame. And then we also know that you get rain, that will vary some, but you're going to get the inflow from the watershed. If you get 6 inches of rain, you're going to get 12-inch rise on the North Lake most of the time. So that's the kind of stuff that's not necessarily as straightforward. So I'd like for Tim to give us another shot at that, and we'll cover that in the next meeting. All right? I have a copy of it somewhere here, but I don't know that I can put my finger on it. No, I didn't. I found it, but it's too late to copy things. I know where it's at in my laptop now, though. So I'll show you that, and then we can talk about it. So the other thing that we wanted to do was some simple things, like this thing said open valves 50%. Well, 50%, if you're Tim, well, you'd know what that means. But if you're me, I don't know what that means. We normally open it so many turns. Well, that turns can be equivalent to a certain percent, but they're not the same on all these valves. So we need that. We can say 50%, but then put in parentheses how many turns is that. So make it where it's easy to do. Okay, so Tim, you'll look at that with me. And I think I'm going to give you credit again because Tim has been doing the maintenance on valves and repaired the valves, and he's doing a monthly check and that sort of thing on valves, and that has made our life a whole lot better in dealing with the state and St. John Water Management District. So thanks a lot for your work there, Tim. Appreciate it. All right, so that's what will happen at the next meeting. We'll have Tim to give us his comments. He can do it. He can just mark up
Took me a minute to find it, but this is the document you're talking about.
Yeah, so would you send that to everybody if you will, because that, yeah, there you go. So there is a little more science to it than what we, okay, so there's that. So that's the drawdown policy. That will need to be on the next meeting, and it needs to be at the first part of the meeting because Tim is working and he needs to get out of here earlier than we sometimes stay, which is another challenge for us as we're going through here. We need to figure out how to cut these meetings back, and that was on your proposal too there, Carol. So we're on to a Hanson update. In January and in February, we had geotech work being done to fill in gaps that we didn't have from any of the studies that were done. Hanson looked at all the studies that had been done, and on geotechnical work, there was some additional work that needed to be done. So we gave them another contract or an amendment to the contract they had to do some additional geotech work and to do some additional surveying. And that was all completed, mostly in January, some in February. But then they've been writing reports to give to Hanson. And so that's, Hanson said that by the end of the week, they'll have all the reports and information from the geotech guys and the surveying guys. So as far as being on site, they're done for that. They actually were here longer than I had thought they would be, but that's okay too. There's an incremental analysis, and what that's driven by, what that is headed for is to deal with the St. John Water Management District, who's our permitting agency. So they're the ones that are going to tell us, hey, your dams were built for a 100-year flood, all right? If you built one today, it'd be full PMP, probable maximum precipitation, which all that means is the 100-year flood's about 11 inches of rain or 11 inches of rise. And a PMP, depending on what state you're talking to, can be as much as 48 inches. All right. Well, if we had to go 48 inches, then that's that just keeps, the higher you go, the higher the dollars go. So they're doing this incremental analysis that ties back to inundation studies that have been done and all of your watershed studies and all those sort of things. And they will try to arrive at something that they can sell to St. John Water Management District that will get us to, say, maybe half PMP. So that would be 20 inches roughly. They may be able to do it, they may not. But to do that, they've had to go through a lot more analysis than what anybody in the past had done. So that's an incremental analysis. Some of the surveying that was done ties into this incremental analysis that Bergman, who's a subcontractor to Hanson, is doing. Somewhere probably in April, plus or minus, well, let's say plus a month, they will be meeting with St. John Water Management District. And at that point, they should be able to zero in on what is this permit criteria really going to be. So we've talked about rehabilitation of dams and that sort of thing, and the driver is really this permit criteria. And so until we really know what the permit criteria is going to be that St. John Water Management District will approve, then you're just guessing at dollars. It's an educated guess, but it's still a guess. So probably in April, they'll have some kind of idea on this incremental analysis, and they'll be able to present something to St. John Water Management District, and we should be pretty close to having a positive response from them. They'll also have sketches at that time, not detailed engineering drawings, but they will have sketches, conceptual sketches, and they'll be able to present that to, obviously, us before they do it to the St. John Water Management District, and then hopefully we can get that part nailed down. Then you're into the next phase for Hanson would be detail engineering. Okay. All right. The next item on here was auditor information. I assume that was primarily directed at me. I had meetings with. I had some discussion with Tom. I also had some discussions with Brian Wozniak with Hanson, and this is the audit for 2022, end of September 2022. In the previous year, we didn't have a district engineer, and Tom and Carl and Mike Kelter put some things together to get us past that audit. This year we had Hanson, but only for a couple of months. So I drafted what I thought was the appropriate part and then worked with Hanson on it, and he added stuff to it and took stuff away. And end result is you've got probably, I don't know, 3 pages more verbiage than what we had before, something like that. And it needs to be cleaned up from my secretarial capabilities. And there's one part in there where you make comments, at least I think that's the way it was set up, where you had 5 years of money spent. All right, so it may be buried with what I gave you. I tried to highlight it and point it out. Oh, yeah. Today? Yeah. And I sent it to you too. Did you see it?
What time did you send it?
Huh?
What time did you send it?
Well, let's see. I'd have to open my laptop up to figure that out, but sometime early afternoon. I will look at it, and you can look at it with me when this meeting's over. We won't tie everybody up to look for it right now, but I sent it to both you and Tom.
I'll check when I get home. If I don't have it, I'll let you know.
I've got it right here. We'll look it up and
You can
before we leave.
log, later on, you can log into this.
Oh, I don't necessarily want to do that in front of everybody. Gee, I'm joking. I might not have hit send, Tom. I've done that before. Okay. So you should have that. All right, now where are we? We're at Janet. Grants.
Okay, I'd like to share with everybody our meeting with Representative Aaron Bean. Okay, we met with Representative Bean on the 14th. Lambsma, myself, and Mike Clemens were present. Hanson was present, as well as Kimley Horn, Representative Aaron Bean and his staff. We opened the meeting by having introduction, and Mr. Bean's first question was regarding the restoration of the natural land of Lake Asbury, similar to the Rodman Dam, where there's a lot of people who want the restoration of the Rodman Dam. And initially I thought, oh no, we're in trouble here. But no, that was definitely not the case. Our lakes have a historic significance and an ecological community that has built up around the lakes. And there's really no push by the community to restore the lakes to the natural ravines that were here. Hanson shared an overview of what was happening with the dams currently, that they have outlived their natural lifespan and the significant work needed to be done on the dams. Hanson shared the difference between the 100-year storm model and the probable maximum precipitation storm model. The question was given by Representative Bean regarding how the dams performed for the 100-year storm model, which was Hurricane Irma. And Hanson shared that everything passed through the dams with no overtopping and no failure. If failure did occur, it would be catastrophic, and several houses and essential transportation corridors along Black Creek would be removed. We shared that during one of the last events, there was a siphon system that was placed in the spillway, and the spillway is on private property. We shared that the siphon system was no longer there and the reasons for why that is. The siphon was an emergency measure to draw down the spillway when the spillway wasn't working, and the valves were repaired, and they have an estimated remaining service life of 5 years. That was estimated by Hanson. The estimated cost for construction and rehabilitation of the dams is around $10 million. We shared with Representative Bean that this is an extreme financial burden on a small special district. Representative Bean was very attentive, and he said that there is a lot of state money available for projects such as this. He was going to reach out to Representatives Bradley and Garrison. Okay, everybody hear me. Bradley and Garrison, Bradley and Garrison, Bradley and Garrison. Please write to your representatives. Okay, let them know that we are an active community. Bradley and Garrison. They're going to come and do a run-through, again, with Representative Bean and representatives from Hanson, Lambsba, and Kimley Horn. Right now, he does want to help us, and he's going to throw his hat in the ring for some of the federal money, but everybody knows what's happening in Washington, D.C. with the budgets. So he feels like he's going to be stymied that way until the budget issues are settled. So then, as a follow-up, we're going to be arranging a meeting with Bradley and Garrison to try and get our hands on some of that state money. So that is where we're at. We're going to keep in touch with him. His office sent us something last week, which has not arrived in the mail yet. I'm not sure what it is. It may be some bumper stickers that say vote for Aaron Bean. I really don't know. But we will let you know when we receive that. LMS, Local Mitigation Strategies, that meeting is next week. So I'll be talking with them again and hopefully revising some of our plans in accordance with Hanson and what they have going on. So that's our grants update currently. And we still need $1 million in the bank if we're going to go for any kind of loans. We still need $1 million in the bank or more if we're going to go for any kind of loans. I have not, but I do have all of Carl's notes.
Commented on that topic. Yeah, I had some interaction with, when I was at ViStar, I made a point of just stopping and asking ViStar if they were by charter able to be, if they were interested in funding our municipal service or special district, and they came back and said no, but they recommended that we contact Valley Bank, and Valley Bank specializes in Florida, well, multiple states, HOAs as well as municipal bonds. So I spoke to two gentlemen there. I can get all their names and put it in the minutes, but they're looking at our website, doing their due diligence, and when there's something worth discussing regarding the municipal bond possibility, they will present that to us at a meeting if we're interested. So I know Carl had mentioned that a long time ago, but I never heard any more about it again. So I thought I would bring that back up to the group. That's all.
Okay. Janet, do you have an idea of when we may be meeting with Garrison and Bradley, or?
I don't. Representative Bean's office was going to reach out to them and set that up.
They're going to set it up through you and Lambsta Board, or through Kimley Horn, or who's carrying the ball on it?
My guess is that they're going to reach back to Kimley Horn, who will then reach back to us.
Okay. All right. Any other updates on any other grant situations?
No, but Kimley Horn does want us to do some serious consideration once we get our facts and our figures and our permitting down to some of the loans, the guaranteed loans that they've proposed in the past. There is a fee for a lot of them to apply for the loan, but their interest rates are much lower, according to what they're telling me.
We still expect them to be in hot pursuit on appropriation requests or grants, though, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Larry, you got water quality, and then an update on grass carp.
Yes, signed a contract, 22nd of February, and they said the grass carp would take 4 to 6 weeks to get here, which puts them no later than the last week of this month. And it'll be 323. 230 total. Yeah. And in discussion also, I'd like to bring up that, the next thing is that I know everyone's been informed and including me that the grass carp that are put in are sterile. I've had a lot of family and friends from Virginia for the last 3 weeks. I've been fishing every day. You see me, I know, every day. Anyway, we have spotted 5 grass carp in the North Lake in the 2 to 2.5, 3 pound range. They haven't been any added in this place since 2015, but we're not sterile. And in the South
Larry, that's probably why FWC would give us a permit unless we have the barriers.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, that's the end of the grass carp. The dredging, I have a contract. I contacted another outfit, which I'd like to report, Bayside Dredging. I talked to John Scamp. The problem with, and this is just my opinion, the problem with dealing with them, they're a little closer, but they cannot handle, they only want to dredge. They don't want to come in and take care of our water house. And that's the floating vegetation that you see that has flower blooms on it. Now, the other outfit, SRS, which they're coming from Kokomo, Indiana, and they would bring their equipment here. That's a cost factor and everything else. But they are prepared to come in and actually lift up, just like you take a large rake and get underneath the house and put it in a barge and haul it off. That, in my opinion, needs to be done first, because if we just go in and dredge, the water hyacinth's gonna get all busted up and floating around and doing that. You wanna take care of the hyacinth first. We have grass carp that's gonna take care of your naiad that's in there, and then we can talk about dredging. So if and when we get around to accepting of this bid that he has, I can tell you just the first two fingers, if we started on the North Lake at the dam and going towards, just the South Dam, going towards the North Dam, the first cove or slough, however you want to refer to it, on the right, and the first cove or slough on the left are the two most effective in both with the southern naiad and the water hyacinth. They're in the worst shape. So that would be the first two to do it. The total for the dredging and removal of that would be $166,675. That's for two, and I've got maps. This is what we went, Mike and I and the gentleman that we took around. We went to the very back of every cove, and what the priority was that we wanted to make sure that there was at least 5 foot of water in front of every boat dock on the lake. So, as you can see, we don't need to dredge the whole lake and to spend a lot of money on that. Just the back end pieces of them will take care of our problem, and everyone will have a minimum of 5 feet in front of their bulkhead. And their boat dock. And the gentleman the people who do the work will be at least 5 feet, wasn't it?
Yeah, we discussed that.
Yeah, 5 feet away from your property line, so there won't be any damage to your bulkheads or your boat docks. That's the dredging part, but it's down the road because we have to have the money in the bank to take care of the dams first.
Larry, I'm not casting dispersions here, but we don't know how we're going to take that. How we're going to get the sand out of the lower lake,
Right.
off the barge and to the land. We don't have any spot to bring the sand out.
I know that's
Part two is we have no place to take the sand. So in the lower lake, we don't have. We talked to the guy about it. But there's no lot available for him to grab the dirt out of the barge and put it into a semi. The semis weigh 77,000 tons, so you can't go over the dams. So they're all going to have to go towards Henley, but there's no land available for us to take the dirt out of. So the dredging is so preliminary. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of logistics to be done before we figure out how we want to take it out.
And some lady at the last meeting brought up the county has land that we ought to build. I can't find anybody that has us willing to let us dump the sediment there. It's not going to be anything but grass, water, and sand. And then when the water drains off, there's going to be dirt and so on that people could actually use on their own property to fill in holes. I can tell you that. It'll eventually get to be that, but it's going to take time. But we have no place to put it. We don't own property, so we can dump, we own a little piece, I forget where it is, it's off of,
Lake Ryan.
but it's really too small. But I think it would hold, it wouldn't hold any of the dredging, but I believe it would hold the water hyacinth. If you got that up first, got that out, that piece of property would hold the water hyacinth. That's my opinion. That's all I have for right now. The carp will be here by the end of March, and Mike and I asked Tim Lay to go, we're gonna make sure that we are paying for 9 and 10-inch carp. So we shouldn't have much of a loss as far as larger bass eating them and the birds getting to them. If you go too small, that we lose a lot of them, but with 9 and 10 inch, they ought to be able to do the job for us. That's all I have.
If I understood it right, you mentioned $166,675. But then you said that does not include getting rid of it? So that's gonna be another fee on top of that?
No, we have to come up with a place for them to put it.
So,
That is,
so yes, that would be, if we can figure out how to get it out of the lower lake onto a truck, then have that truck go a short distance.
he's got the barge
that's
to
the
put
price.
it on, but then it goes into a truck and then it's gotta be hauled away.
Yeah, if the guy has to take it a long way, that's going to add to the cost, yes.
Where is,
How does the barge offload? How does the barge offload? Can they pump it?
It looks like it's a backhoe, like a
Backhoe?
Caterpillar, he drives up on a barge into the finger, extracts the dirt,
Right.
He sets
drives
up-
back to the boat ramp. There has to be a semi there, and he takes that same backhoe
Yeah.
and fills the semi.
And then we're gonna make a mess at the boat ramp we have to clean up too, probably.
Well, he can't do it on the lower lake, and I know this is probably more than you want to hear, but you can't, the power lines are like to the west, so you can't go that
Sure.
way. So it's got to be towards their property, and there's no space to do it unless they allow us to go on their property. So to me, that, I don't know how that outfit's going to work.
All right. We can figure that out later. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
because I have some experience with vacuum trucks, and they can
Yes.
move a lot of stuff, and they hold a lot of material,
Yes.
and it's quick. All right.
I have a question. If, I know the water hyacinths and all that has to happen first. And, I mean, that'll be wonderful. Once you get to the point where you have to dredge, obviously we have dams and we can't run trucks over them. If somebody like on Wesley Road, which is where I'm at, had a space where they could open it up for trucks to go down there, now our hill is steep, would we be able to repair it back to what it was before we did that?
That would be a question for the guy extracting the dirt. You know.
I
I wouldn't know.
I asked that question when we went down, that she may be available to actually take it, material, and dump it on the land to build, and they said they wouldn't do it because they wouldn't be responsible.
Okay, not that, but when you get ready to take it out of here,
Yeah,
you have to have a way to get it up to
Yes.
something.
yeah.
So the only thing that I can see is private property to do that insert and take out because there's no open spaces. So that's.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's gonna make a mess of somebody's property, so
Yeah,
they
exactly.
have to put it back to what it was.
And that would be probably up to the board to fix it, not them,
No, that's right.
because we're having done.
Well, Tom's right too. There's other options. It could be VACCON, there's a way to pump them out. In the old days when they did this South Lake, they pumped it behind this building right here. In the old days when they pumped out that first finger on the left, Lake Lark allowed us to dump it into Lake Lark. So they just pipe it across the street. But I'm just saying, this one particular outfit, I don't know how viable it is because I don't think he knows how to get it out. But somebody else maybe make easy peasy, but not that particular guy.
Good job.
Well, I think, so your primary concern now is the South Lake dredging material, right?
If we did South Lake, it'd be easier because you got the old pavilion area, you got a staging area.
Because on the North Lake, once we understand the scope of our construction, we were planning on relocating the power lines, and you could possibly while you're there, you could block off you could time it such that you have the road blocked off or part of the road blocked off. You could just use a crane and move it into dump trucks. But we can circle back on that.
Did you mention anything about permit on this thing? I mean, before you do anything, you gotta have a permit, right? Or do you?
Oh, yeah, we got the permits.
We do have a permit?
Grass permit or the dredging permit. I haven't been able to find out if any more other than our old permit was good because it's existing,
Yeah.
work being done.
I sent all of y'all, I finally got a hold of the guy, Mike Kelter. He had been avoiding me, I think. What?
Sorry about that. My phone just started playing podcast.
Okay. I had been trying to get Mike to respond, and I don't know, I thought he wasn't going to talk to me anymore. I can't imagine that, but he finally responded, and I sent all of y'all a copy of an email that was very interesting from him. It has holes in it, but it still was very interesting. He said that and I'm kind of giving you a thumbnail sketch from memory here, it could be a little wrong. He said that dredging consisted of 1995,
Yes.
2005, and the 95 dredging was done by the county and paid for by the county. For whatever reasons, I don't know. How much money it was, I don't know. The 2005 was done by this group and paid for by this group. And then there was nothing until 2000.
It wasn't anything done in 2012.
Yeah, but somebody had told me 2012, so that's how that number came, that's how that date came in. But then 2015 is where Bush Court got it, I think when the road construction was going on and, you know, we had some tropical storms and Bush Court got it twice. And I think the county paid for one of those and we paid for one of them. Interestingly too is from Kelter's comments, and I asked him for additional information. He hasn't sent it to me yet, but some of the money that paid for some of the dredging was grant money because of storms that had happened, and it was looked at like that was you know, beyond anybody's control, and the government came up with money, and that's where that came from. All right, so there's and he said that the permit that was done in 95 was used again in 2005 and used again in 2015. It's kind of a maintenance permit that has more or less a perpetual life, the way it sounded. Yeah, so it sounded like that there's some more information there. He also said, Carol, I don't know whether you had any luck finding anything, but he said at one time we had tremendous amount of information on dredging in our files back here. Okay, but so that was Mike Kelter's. He said that he transferred a lot of that information when he ceased to be the district engineer, and he transferred it by some electronic means. I don't know whether it's a thumb drive or, you know, attachment to a PDF or whatever, you know. But I've sent him, you know, I've tried to send him a text and an email and all, says, come on, man, can you give me more information about how did you send that so we can maybe try to figure out more about where it's at or that sort of thing. But he hasn't responded to me, so if any of y'all might have a better relationship with him than I apparently do, then you might could reach out to him and see if we can find out just a little bit more information. But he knew more about what all went on there than anybody that I've talked to. So I thought that was interesting. Now here's the other thing that I think we've got to consider is, and I've talked with Hanson about this too, is in some of our studies that were done with the geotech this time and some of their planning for construction, you know, is you've got on the North Lake, you've got these two big pipes going through the dams. And that has been a concern. Everyone in pipe going through the dam has been a concern from the state dam safety officer for a while, and frankly, some of our engineers didn't help us on that any either, because they put it in their reports that it's a big problem and all that too. So that is still being investigated. But if you looked at possibilities and say, what's the worst case possibility with those pipes going through the dam, you dig them up completely. That's 25 foot down, 30 foot down, something like that. You dig them up and get them out of there. All right, then you backfill and go on with your next project. Now, if you do that, to tie back to dredging, then you're gonna drain a lake down, all right? Then I would imagine you can take front end loader or whatever you want to, and trucks, and sink them maybe, but you could probably, huh?
Backfill the holes.
Well, you could, my point is that at that point, the dredging situation may be totally different than what we're thinking about right now. And there is a distinct possibility. We don't know we don't know yet whether those pipe are gonna have to be dug out or not. But, we as a board and Hanson as an engineering group need to be making certain that whatever we do with those pipes, that we're not gonna pay for it later, you know? So, and Hanson may call that shot for us, because they're the engineer of record, they're the one that has responsibility going forward. And they may say, with all of the stuff that they've found and the studies they've done, that them pipe are coming out of there. And if we do that, then I tied it back into the dredging. That may be excellent time to do that. And we did not put on Hanson's agreement or proposal that they gave us, we did not even address dredging at all. But they do, and Bergman has done a lot of dredging and that sort of thing. I said, we don't want to talk about it yet, but I was just curious. I assumed you guys have done a lot of that, and they have. So my point is that there's a lot of details in this stuff that you can't go off, just without dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So. Other comments on dredging?
Not about dredging. What's the next step on the leak removal? The next step.
Removal of your concrete courthouse, we'd have to sign the contract to remove the courthouse, which would also follow up with dredging when.
Yeah, I think the option would be, not to talk out of turn, the option would be if we don't have this dredge guy, whatever, we either got to, as a community, get out there in the boat and pull it out while it's knocked back because of cold weather. Now's the time to do it. Or we're going to have to either hire somebody to spray it, because the stuff on top's not going away. Fish don't eat that. The water lily and the hyacinth and all that, it's here to stay unless you physically pull it out. You either got to spray it, it's going to sink to the bottom, which you don't really want, or there's going to have to be 10 or 15 people have to have a cleanup day down there on y'all's lake and clean it out. That's your options.
And we've had plenty of neighbors who have stepped up and said that they would love to be part of an organized cleanup. They're volunteering boats, they're volunteering labor, they're volunteering their backyards as place to dump the hyacinth. And also Earth Day is coming up on the 22nd, and the Ladies Club is sponsoring again a community-wide cleanup, but we'd love to include cleaning up your lake if you're on the lake, not just those of us who walk around the roads picking up trash.
Right. There's the obvious one is down by Lake Lark. That's the one that everybody sees. There's some water hyacinth in this upper lake in the back fingers, eastern part of the fingers, if you will. There's some back there, but the biggest culprit is down there, and the biggest hurdle for people pulling it out is not having a place to throw it. If I pull it out there and got to drive my boat all the way to the boat ramp to dump it, if I'll spend all day to let us throw it up on their land, that's the game changer right there. Yeah, yeah. Burn it, do whatever you want to. Right. Right, right, right.
bring the equipment, mobilization and demobilization of the equipment is $34,770. The vegetation removal, the price for each cove that we went into is $24.55, which gives you a total of $25,530 to dredge or get the water hyacinth out of your finger. And then we go down to the next finger. We call that Lake Lark because the finger is going right towards Lake Lark. To remove that vegetation removal, not including dredging, is $106,375. If we can have a group of people who are willing to clean up, that's what I'm all for it. But it's going to take a lot of boats, a lot of people, and when you get it out.
You can't talk from the audience, I know you're not smart to say, but you gotta fill out a card and we'll do what we comments, okay? Because if everybody starts talking, we need to be like the old days, we'll be here all night. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, it's fine. But if we could get to, and I'm gonna ballpark it, if we get 100 people with the boats, it's really gonna be a chore. It's not easy. I got 50 pounds out just in one fishing trip, and I just take my fishing net, dip it out of the water, put it in the boat, and then when I get home, I throw it up on it, it dries out, and I put it in the trash can and haul it off. But you're gonna have to have at least 100 people willing to do that. It's not gonna, you get a great group of 25 people and we're gonna clean up the whole lake. Won't happen. We'll spend the Lake Lark finger, the second, you're here at the dam, you go down the lake and the first finger on your left. When you're okay till you get halfway back. From halfway back to the dam where the road goes over, 25 boats, 3 hours, and we might be able to clean it up, but I want you to know what you're really looking at when you get to working on it. I've been picking it up for months, so.
Not to belabor the point because we don't want to be here all night, there may be a way to get 2 boats and a rope. And, we pull that rope across the top and it may drag them all to the shore and it may take hardly no time.
Yeah.
There may be easier ways than just scooping them out.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Any ideas like that, and I'm gonna be there, so, I've been taking it out for months anyway.
Well, I'm a
That
little.
answer your question?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I think it's good community spirit, but I realistically have some concern because of the magnitude of the job, and in my case, the age of the people. And some have boats and some don't have boats. So it's like, I'm not real sure it's the good answer. Maybe it's an answer that doesn't cost us any money and we try it. And if it doesn't work, we haven't lost anything.
I have spoken to companies that will come out and mechanically extract weeds, but it's very expensive. And this guy that Larry's talking about, if he pulls a hyacinth out, he can't offload the hyacinth either. He's got the same problem. Once he pulls a hyacinth out, it's just like sand. He's got to be able to take it from his barge to somebody's lot. Like I said, now somebody who lives on that cove lets him do it, but you're talking about spending some money, what Larry's talking about.
I'll give him a call and see if he can bring one piece of equipment. He already knows what the problem is. And without dredging, what would be your cost to mobilize the equipment down here and just work on removing the hyacinth? Because that one little piece of property, I do believe if we got the floating hyacinth out, that part of the land would hold the runoff the water to run off, so it would dry up and then we could remove it. But I'll call him tomorrow and for the next meeting, let you know what it would cost for him to bring his equipment down and remove nothing but the hyacinth, no dredging involved.
One thing I do know, that since it's beginning to warm up, my finger is totally gone at this point. I mean, it's like it grew exponentially overnight. And so there has to be an optimum or better time to do all this, and it can't be much later because it's getting worse.
All right, the weeds that you have or what the fish Larry is putting in, that's what they eat. You've got a lot of southern naiad in your water. Now, stuff floats on top, they won't eat. But the southern naiad, the stuff that looks like seaweed, that's what the fish eat.
But
it's
not
gonna
that
take
stuff on top.
No, unless it's the weeds growing to the top. But those fish are gonna take a while to work, 9 months.
Yeah.
You know, the fish aren't going, you won't see any advantage with the fish for 9 months.
They're gonna eat
That's what
two, three times
FWC
the
told us.
per day, and they're gonna take care of a lot of it. But the water hyacinth, they don't eat that. Yeah.
I was just going to say, until we make an all-out best effort and get our community involved and everybody rolling up and cleaning up their backyards, because this is our backyards, and that we can do a better job. And a whole lot of people are willing and have called me and said that they're willing, they just want to be directed. And until we make a good faith effort and a real strong push in doing that, I'm going to have a real difficult time being able to go along with spending any money on bringing somebody in from the outside until we clean up our own house. Personal opinion.
I hear what everybody's saying, but you don't have the problem. I do. Yeah, well, I apologize.
Yeah,
I'm really sick of it.
she's got a real, trust me, I was in the back of that finger, it's bad too.
Well, the problem that I have is for 20 years, we've sat here and done nothing. And now all of a sudden, while we're paying as we have been and will continue to do, we're suddenly looking at ourselves, no matter what our condition, and saying, okay, we're gonna do this. I don't mind, I'm a pretty strong girl, but I can't do that. And I cannot get out there and all that. And I don't have a boat because I sold the boat because it wouldn't get stuck in the mud. So I appreciate all the good comments, but I don't see much action here. And I'll be glad to serve coffee and donuts the day it all happens, but I can't get out there and pull that stuff.
I would offer, just to maybe raise this to the next level, I appreciate what Diane's saying, but there's some pretty clever people live around here. If we can get to a point where we can scrounge up an old pontoon boat and we can make our own rake without a whole lot of effort, and then there's people that can drive it.
But I can help with
So
that.
can we, then the next question is, can we make some kind of an agreement with the county? If we can dump this stuff on the dams, let the county come pick it up with their jaws. That would help with the disposal process. So I just throw that out there and people can think about it. But
So who's
to
gonna
go out
check?
there with personal boats and rakes and try and do it that way, that's a lot of effort. But if we put some of those hours to make our own rake, I think it would be more efficient and it would be available to us for years to come.
So do we have a pontoon boat?
Well, I'm just throwing that out there, but that would be my concept.
4 separate pontoon boat owners have approached me in the last month volunteering. And those are just, and we haven't even asked for help yet.
Then we need to ask the county, do they have a place we can dump it? I mean, I hear everybody saying this, but we still have to find out. You must have the pieces in place before it all gets started or the other gets dropped.
Well, like I said, if you get the water hyacinth out of the water and lay it in the yard, any place at all, it's gonna dry up. You put it in a trash can and they will haul it away every Wednesday when they haul debris. It will, I've been doing it, so it'll work. People just have to be willing to put it in their yard for, depending on the weather, 2 weeks.
And then get it up the hill.
Get it up the hill.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, I got a 2-wheel dolly, I'll run them.
No, that won't work. Not on my hill, it won't.
Okay. That's all I have.
You've had quite enough, I think, Larry. You've already got us over $200,000, and we haven't done anything and don't have anywhere to put it. So that's a challenge. Any other comments, Jerry? Jerry, you get left out some, so I want you to make sure you get the opportunity to talk. If you want to.
I don't know how many cubic yards we took out before on all these studies, or when we dredged. I mean, I looked at some property down by the ravines that actually needed fill. Of course, they called it the Asbury Drain. Guess where it drains? But, you know, there's a real consideration they might try to fill that in.
We'll try and dig up some records and put a chart together of here's what we've done in the past so people can have a better idea of what we're faced with.
You know, we could put large dumpsters where we could dump all the weeds, big dumpsters.
Rent, they done.
Yeah, just throw them in there and let them come pick it up.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but the property where all the weeds are the most prevalent, that is steep property. And you're not getting a big truck down there. You know, to me, I agree with, I know we belabor this way too much. Throw it up on the land. If somebody's willing to let us throw it up on there, throw it up on the land, get a couple weeks. It's 90% water. In 2 weeks, it's a fraction of its size. You know, so.
Okay, so it sounded, Janet, did you want to comment on the dredging or weed removal or what?
I'm just worried about having money to fix those dams.
Yeah.
This is a big, big bite.
Diane, you made positive comments. I appreciate your comments. Mike, any? Yeah, I know. There's 2 people, public comments. I'm fixing to get to them, but I don't want to miss any of our board people that sometimes I have to lean back to see Diane, so. But I thought your comments were on target. I liked the fact that you've talked to a lot of people, or a lot of people have talked to you, and that's good. I think another thing that is, if we go back to Mike Kelter's comments and all that, think about it. What did he say? He said we did dredging in '95, then we did it again in 2005, and then we did it in 2015. We've not done a lot of dredging. You got Hazelwood Hole, but that's a different situation.
But every 5 years you need to have dredging.
I don't know that that's true. Did the guy that came, Larry, that went out in a boat with y'all, did he measure depths of?
15 years ago.
Did he measure depths?
Yes, he did. We measured every finger, every cove in Lake Asbury, both upper and lower lake.
Yes, sir, we did.
But to me, we don't have enough data. You know, if we start doing this on a regular basis, I'll go out there annually and measure it, and you'll have real numbers. But if we say, hey, we're going to dredge every 5 years, you might not be dredging anything. You know, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't let me.
Well, look,
It doesn't get to the point that it is now. We know it ahead of time and can work on it.
Right. Down the
That
road,
makes
you know, I
sense.
can get my GPS phone out, or anybody can, and mark whatever spot we're going to measure, and you can measure that same exact spot every year.
And then you
So
know
you'll know
where
what the
you're
number is, right?
Right. That's the way we do the water samples anyway.
In fact, we could use the water sample
Yeah.
spots.
I'll go ahead and chime in one last time about this water quality. I just pulled the water quality for the upper lake a few days ago. I saw Larry out there. The upper lake is the most clarity I've ever seen it. At one spot, it read 12 feet. Another spot near a finger, it read 10 feet. It may have gone further, but I hit the bottom at 10 feet. So the water clarity is at all-time high.
Yep. It's even clearer on the north lake.
all right, we're gonna have the people from the audience, a few of them have made the comment. What? No, we're not, we're letting the audience participate in the items we're talking about. But before you get to that, you've said something that bothers me, frankly, Larry, and that is 5 foot. We want 5 foot, we want 5 foot, we want 5 foot. What was the contour of this lake as originally built? What was the contour and the scope when we did the dredging before? You know, if it was 4 foot or 3.5 foot, then why are we talking 5 foot? We got to have the data from the previous dredging reports and all. There had to be a scope. Mike Kelter says yes, there was a scope, and you know, and that's what arrived at how many yards of dirt and muck and stuff you were going to take out, and that's what arrived at what your cost was. That's how a guy would bid the job. So I don't think we've got a clear enough scope. And then you complicate it by saying, if we take these pipe out, we're fixing it. You know, you're going to have these lakes down to nothing. So what are you going? Then you got plenty of time to dredge and get dirt out.
One of the things that's impacting us, no matter what we all think, is all the building going around us is killing us because all the silt and stuff is just washing in. So what we did have, we don't have anymore. And when we got here, that was 20 years ago, we had 8 feet off the end of our dock, is what we had. I don't even care to get 8 feet anymore. I'd be happy with 5, but I agree, we don't know what we don't know what we had because we can't find our records. And that's a problem.
And I'll take part of the blame for the whole 5 foot thing. We were just, me, Larry, and one other guy, we just went down. We wanted everybody who's paying $2,400 to have water access for a boat if they had it. That's the whole, that's where the 5 foot come from. And I agree, we don't have a scope of work. It's kind of like 3 guys riding around in a boat. I get it. But it's like this first step. You know, y'all asked about dredging, so Larry took out time out of his day, and we went out there and we did everything. So it's just a step.
Tell you within a half a foot of work we were everywhere on those lakes. I mean, they're that accurate.
To me, it's just a start.
Okay. Don, I'll give you your notes back because I can't read it all anyway, but you'll need to.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've got loopy handwriting.
You'll need to be standing by a microphone so we can get you recorded good.
Okay. Has the water source on the Wesley Road finger been identified, the one that we saw going over that bulkhead? And this is not my question.
Are you going to ask all you? Is that your only?
That's it. No, yeah, I actually simplified it.
I hate to be the one talking all the time, but to me, that's a conversation that a couple of us outside of land subs and working with the county on. And the last I know, the county says it's not their property and they don't know they don't have rights to drive on that property. So, but we've taken all that to the county.
Dawn, I need that piece of paper for our records. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that's kind of a group outside of this group.
Are you saying they don't have the right to drive on Dawn's property?
The people where that pond is,
Yeah, that's the other side.
the county, when we spoke to them initially, we reached out to everybody and said, hey, if you got a problem, bring it to him. and we'll bring it up to the county. We brought that up, and the county's response was is they don't have access to that property. And about, development from the outside, putting silt into our community, the way St. John's Water does ponds now, retention ponds, I don't think that's gonna be that big of a deal, short of a big major storm. The only finger that I know of that's not checked as far as retention pond would be Hazelwood Hole. Okay, that's unchecked. That's water straight off the road, straight down the side of the hill. But every other, like all the inlets coming into Y'all's Lake, I think every one of those has a retention pond, especially if it's coming from the new subdivisions across the street. So.
She's not smiling, so I think that Mark, you and I went and looked after the meeting 6-8 months ago, and we couldn't find where bunches of water was coming up, but there was water coming around a makeshift bulkhead that was towards the road from where her dock is. So.
You're gonna need equipment to cut stuff back to find it, because we spent probably 45 minutes
Yeah,
back there.
yeah, so,
It's actually something that's marking on the side. It's not the landscape.
yeah, Mark's gonna take care of it. How you like that? But I clearly had a good appreciation for what the problem is when we went and looked. The mosquitoes are bad too, really bad. That was what time of the year it was.
Where's this pond at? Where's the,
It's
You know where my house is?
yeah.
Okay, straight across the road, there's a huge pond. That's where it is, and you can't see it from the road. You have to know it's there.
Okay.
And there is an indication that there's some sort of a pipe that comes through there from that. But the pipe that she's talking about, we personally saw spouting water last summer, not last summer.
I've never seen a pipe spraying water back there.
The thing where the water's shooting out of it.
Culvert.
I don't know what it is. At the end of the finger.
So there's a pond over here?
There's a pond right behind,
Here's you, right?
yep,
And here's the road.
right.
Is this
And
the pond?
there's a huge pond. There's a huge pond. See the upper, the second one in that circle? No, here. Right here.
Come down. Closer to the bullseye. The bullseye, yeah.
This looks like a pond with a dock.
Closer to the bullseye, Tom.
no, she's saying where the bullseye is there.
On her side of the road?
Okay, so it's got to be, if this is the end of our picture. That's correct. And that's Russell Road, then the pond has got to be right in here somewhere. Right, that's somewhere, I don't know. Well, that might be, anyway, it's that big.
Okay.
And there is some sort of a giant green light on at least one map I have showing it going through. But I don't know.
All right, Mark, you guys still have miscellaneous items that you're dealing with the county on, correct?
Yes.
I would assume that is still one of them or not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so,
I'll just need to confirm it's the same, Mark on it. I'll just need to confirm that it's the same one that I had the address for, so we're looking at the same spot.
Well, there's only one there that I know of.
I have to, see numbers and location.
Don, what is your street address?
That's just for me.
I'm sorry,
Your street address?
190
Wesley Road.
190 Wesley Road. All right, and it's right where that new road and culverts were put in there. It goes back into the finger there.
I've already sent that to you.
Okay, so I'm not trying to shed responsibility, but those guys have been working on this thing with the county, and I think that they're making some progress, but
Don, just for clarity, our charter for this group of fellows here is to make sure water quality is in our charter. Mark and I and 4 or 5 other people started meeting with the county last year about specific runoff issues. And so, yeah, it's kind of Lance's thing, but we've been working this for a while with the county.
okay, thanks. Let's move on with Wade Bramlett. You got a,
I just had a question or a comment mainly on the dredging. If you time it right with the construction of the dam or what's needed with the dam, whether you're doing the sheet piling bulkhead, that dirt could be used as backfill and you may not have to get rid of as much of it as you think. So you may be able to use that in some aspect. Obviously there's logistics there of drying it out, but maybe using it in some manner within the construction.
yes, sir. Lee?
Wade, not to poo-poo what you just said, but we were told by an engineer that that material, when we pull it out, it has too much organic material and it makes a terrible backfill.
Lee Goodnight, live at 614 Branscombe Road. I've been fishing the South Lake by canoe since 1984. My name's Lee Goodnight. I live at 614 Branscombe. I've been fishing by canoe in the South Lake since 1984 when I bought my property. Last time they did the dredging, it was a suction dredge. They had pipes, floating pipes all the way up to here and dumped the dirt back here. And the finger in Branscombe and the finger at Hazelwood was dredged to a depth of 4 feet with a 4-foot long pipe sticking down off the front of the dredge. And all the way up at the end of Hazelwood, 1,000 feet in or whatever it was he said, there is a sheet pile bulkhead that was installed at the same time. Brand spanking new, and 6 months later, it was buried under 6 feet of dirt that had washed in. That's how fast the finger started filling back in. But the last time those two were dredged, it was 4 feet.
Appreciate your comments, Don and Wade and Lee.
If they can dump stuff, they can dump it in my yard. That's fine. I need dirt. Well, I didn't need all of it.
Well, and they did say that, you got to watch, you got organic growth and that sort of thing. But still, if you looked at our report that was done and Hanson presented us in October the 1st, they talked about smoothing out some of the ruts on the dams and that sort of thing. And that wouldn't necessarily have to be real pristine topsoil, I wouldn't think. So, okay, we're going to call you. Let's see, I can call on Tim Lee because he's on the advisory committee and I need some information from the advisory group.
We can take all that sand and leave it in the lake. Just take it down to the 23-foot deep end down there. It's not going to be that much because it's mostly in the back of the fingers that has to be dredged. And just let them pump it out down there at 23 foot. It'll make it 20 foot instead of 23 foot. You don't have to worry about all of it all. Find somewhere for a truck to back in. You just leave it in the lake.
Yeah, that's a.
I would say there are plenty of options on the dredging, but I think we're a long way away from dredging.
Yeah.
You got to clean it up there. You don't
Yeah.
size it down. So you just need a date. Put it out there and see how many volunteers sign up for it.
Okay, so who would like to try to, I think it's going to take more than one person, but who would like to try to do more of an organization, cleanup of cabbage or what, lettuce or whatever that stuff is?
I'll volunteer to reach out to the other organizations, the Ladies Club, and through the Earth Day projects, and to the other folks who've been talking, and see if we can get several opportunities to volunteer on several dates and times and locations.
Okay, anybody want to volunteer to help her?
I'm in. I've got a pontoon, and I can pull a canoe behind it, and we can put all the hyacinth in there.
I'll help her as well.
Okay, so, I mean, that's what it's gonna take. I think it's, I think, Carol, you're right. It sounds like a big challenge and all that, but it's worth a shot. I don't think we've got, enough money flowing right now and too many unknowns to be spending a whole lot of money on dredging. We've got, as far as positive things, and I think we got to go back and emphasize the positive things. We didn't have a permit for carp. We've got a permit for carp. That thing expired in 2015, so, that's bad, but we got that. We've got the what do you call it, the barriers to keep the fish from going into Black Creek. I don't know how we got a permit with barriers when we didn't have barriers before, but we've got the barriers now, and so all that's done. And we've got the permit. We've also got a permit that we can do spraying if we get to that point. So we've made some progress there, and the fish should be a good contribution. On the North Lake is by far the worst. The South Lake really looks pretty good, surprising. Except for Hazelwood Hole and some of those kinds of issues. But as far as weeds and hyacinth and all that stuff, it looks pretty good. So, okay. All right, let's go where we're at now. Tom Leahy. What? The Gantt chart. Where's that at? I don't even see it on there. Yeah, here it is. Big Gantt chart of the rehabilitation project. I think in our last meeting, it was stated that if we had a Gantt chart from Hanson on what the steps were and where we're going, then that would be beneficial. Carol actually brought that up several meetings ago. And so Tom made an attempt at copying some on a bigger piece of paper than what we had. And there's a couple of charts posted back there on that bulletin board. They're in black and white, so they're not as good as they could be, but we might make them bigger or prettier or whatever, but it's not going to hurt. If you say what's going on, well, you can go look at that chart there, take your camera and snap a picture of it, or you can see it on our website too. So the website has the Gantt charts on it. So that's it? That's the...
Yeah, so this is the last Gantt chart Hanson gave us. It's a little bit hard to see, and I've got a black and white copy here I'll post here. It will be on the website. And what's also over there, the 2-pager that I put up before the meeting is a preliminary chart from when they proposed their program originally. But you'll find slight differences between them, but the schedule's still pretty close, and you can see some of the granularity. That other one has more granularity than this one does, but we're about at the point where they've gathered all their data, and they now know they can start their design work. And then the first thing that has to happen is we have to have an agreement with St. John's Water Management District as far as percent PMP, because that will drive the design. And then all this feeds forward into cost and budget and money and grants and funding, and there we are. So we can't put the cart before the horse. So that's pretty much that. And I'll do whatever I can do. If people have questions or don't understand it, you can call me or email me, and I'll be glad to help walk through it. We've got a new contract in place now with Forest Groundworks, and they are mowing the dams. They have just finished their first mow of the year. And one of the things that I started to try and organize last month was there's some fencing. Well, we have some issues here. I guess it's I can't believe my new laptop won't open a JPEG file, but I'll figure that out in a minute. This is the South Lake here, and the boat ramp is over here to the right of this photo. This fencing here, historically and contractually, the people that mow don't do anything with fences, but he'd be glad to clean this fence for us for several $1,000s. And when I look at what this fence does, I would say we should just tear it down and coordinate with the lake lot owners. They've got a new fence right there. We need to just go identify where the dam survey markers are and extend this gate. In my opinion, just extend this gate to the water and be done with it. Because this is just a no man's land. The guys that do the weed eating and the mowing, they climb over the fence, they do what they can do, which is not a whole lot, and then they leave it. And we've got all this brush and stuff growing in here. It needs to be cleaned up, but we shouldn't have to pay for it on a repetitive basis. I think the simple solution is take part of the fence down.
Why was the fence put in there?
I have no idea. It's just there. We have the same situation. Let me just flip through these pictures. Yeah.
And that Lola pays for the mowing and that part of it. Shouldn't the mowing be cleaned, the degree of just like your contract or our mowing?
Well, see, here's Lowell. It's a new fence, and I assume they put it here because maybe that's because this fence ended there. What I don't know where the boundary is.
That gate's there so the kids can walk in and be on the dam. I'm serious.
Yeah. No, this gate was put here for the mowing people, but I'm just saying there's a problem here. We need to fix it.
Not locked.
Yeah, it's not locked. These gates are not. None of the gates are locked. We have the similar problem on the other lake right across. Bear with me while I fumble through my photos here. But this is the South Dam, but looking over here now, all the way towards the end, and I think I've got a photo. This is the same thing. We've got a fence. We've got about 50 feet of fence there that's on our property, and for what reason I have no idea. And the mowing people will be glad to clean it for us for several thousands of dollars. And I think the simple solution is take the fence down, and then the problem goes away. So I'm going to get some quotes for that, and I'll bring it to the next meeting. But I was just trying to articulate why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting.
Any liability taking that fence down?
Well, I mean, there could be liability for being there and also for taking it down. There's always liability. I don't know why it was there in the first place.
Yeah, because it just ends right here. It comes, I wish I had the other photo that it's probably on my phone, but there's a,
I don't know that leaving it up and taking it
yeah, because you can see there's no fence here the rest of the way across the dam. So what's the purpose of this fence here? It's clearly not on this homeowner's property. I don't know where that fence came from.
Tom, if we're willing to give the fence away, someone will come and dig it up for free.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
we don't need to pay.
I have a
to have it
battery
removed.
powered grinder. I can have that fence out of there in 20 minutes.
I think you should donate it to Larry and let him pull it behind his boat to get on the water houses.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah. So I will come better prepared next meeting with a, I reached out to the, I can never pronounce the outfit's name, Dharmata Fencing. They've done some work for us in the past, but he has not returned my call. These other photos here are to show you the poor condition of these top boards on the seawall. And because we find people walking all the time on here, this is somewhat of a risk for us. We need to fix these boards. The challenge, of course, is we don't know to what extent we may be tearing dams up, and we don't want to do this twice. So I think as a minimum, we need to put out a bid and get somebody to go down through here, cut off the warped, split, broken ends, and put in some new pieces of wood. Just do the minimum necessary to where we don't have a tripping or a falling hazard, and get this fixed.
Who's down there to trip and fall?
Some trespasser, I'm sure, but,
That's my,
you know,
that's my point.
yeah.
I don't know about Florida, but in Virginia, trespassing is serious business. And you will get your butt locked up and a fine.
I'll still see you.
Yeah.
Dispatcher will still see you.
I can't comment to the legalities of it,
That's
but
my point, there's no
it's an
respect
issue.
whatsoever. No, they don't care, the kids don't care. I
Yeah.
had, this is a grown man, drove the golf cart by my house, down to the middle of the dam, got out and laying on the ground there with his dog. I went down and asked him, politely, you know you're trespassing? Well, I'm not doing anybody laying harm. That's beside the point, you're trespassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing anybody any harm.
So we have broken, loose split boards on both sides of the South Lake.
I'm not opposing.
There's probably 2,000 feet of lumber here.
What I'm
Yeah.
proposing is we have now gone from $600 a year to $2,400 for a private property. And that's what the hell it ought to be done, is
Yeah.
private. And nobody should be allowed on it. You don't have any business, the only people that should go on the dam is the mowers. And Jim. When he does the inspection.
So I have a quotation prepared here. What I need is some guidance on exactly what insurance and what terms to attach to this document. So what was included in this folder is an old invitation to bid simply as a reference point, but it has things in there that I clearly know are not correct, and we need to have a small project's terms and conditions document that we can attach to this RFQ so the bidders understand their costs.
So this isn't your finished document?
No, that's absolutely not.
Dredging project,
You know,
which it is.
this is just a sample document that shows, so this document, for example, they want a performance bond, they want within 100 miles, there's some things here, you know, I have no idea what our terms and conditions are. We need to establish our terms and conditions. So, and once I have that, I can prepare this. I know we have to advertise it and follow the public documents procedure for quotes. So that's my next step.
Do we have an approved project?
No, I have not asked for any approval on this yet because I don't know the cost of it. I can estimate the cost of it. To reboard, to put new boards on the South Dam, you're easily in the $25,000 to $30,000 category. And that would be, I have here a scope A and a scope B. And scope A is just do the bare minimum because we do not know what future work. I don't want to do this job twice when Hanson comes along with their work. Scope B, I would replace all this decking with new extruded polymer lumber and it'll be there for 50 years.
Has
But-
Hanson been involved in these conversations?
I have asked them to comment, and I have not heard the answer yet about whether they think they're going to be tearing out seawalls or moving seawalls. So that's part of the puzzle.
It's too, I haven't specifically addressed that we need to replace those top boards or anything like that with them, but it's still premature to say whether those 12-foot pilings with the caps on them that are messed up are going to be there. You know, if you go back to the previous engineer before Hanson, it was Tacoy and Jeff Jackson, and that was going to be 25 or 30-foot sheet piling replaced.
Is there any way to salvage the wood that's there now and just nail it back in place?
Now, this is the CCA lumber is saltwater rated. It's very green. You've probably seen saltwater rated. I forget the 3 letters. Well, I got it right here. I'm sorry. There's ACQ. That's the Home Depot cheaper grade of pressure treated lumber, and it doesn't last more than about 10 or 12 years. Anyway. We're at the end. That board, all these boards are at the end of their life.
So you're talking about using marine lumber?
No, I would recommend my choice. Once I know we only have to do it one more time, I would recommend we use solid synthetic lumber. For those of you that might have seen this Polywoods furniture, the high dollar solution would be to put a concrete cap on these, but that's way more money. That's not worth doing. And I would get away from the screws. I would go to carriage bolts, where they're bolted on both sides. They're not going to pull out. So that's pretty much. Now, just another point of comment: the downstream side of the south dam, that seawall is wood, and it's probably nearing the end of its life as well. It really all needs to be changed to PVC, but we need to hear from Hanson on that
Well,
topic.
we know that if you look at their report, they talked about that articulating block spillway is not going to make it. So that's going to have to be redone.
Yeah, there's another issue there, yeah.
It seems like we're at a point where we need Hanson's input on all this stuff.
Right,
Otherwise,
yeah.
It's like we're throwing our money away there.
Well, you're not going to get it until they get to the St. John River Water Management District.
So the reason I'm bringing this up, particularly on the PVC side of the South Lake, is we know people walk on this stuff. It's loose. There's nails sticking up. There's splinters. It needs to be addressed. Yeah.
And failing, knowing it's there and failing to do anything at all about it makes us doubly at risk.
Correct.
So it's sort of help you do it, help you don't.
Don't we have no trespassing signs like that?
We do, but they're there and they're sun faded, and that's another small piece of the puzzle. But yeah, those signs need to be updated so they're more readily available to read.
So you're saying you want to submit and at least figure out what it would cost us cheap-wise to do that and/or expensive-wise, so we'll know some kind of idea
Yeah.
if we want to do it at all, what it would be.
Yeah.
All right,
So I'm prepared with my RFQ. I will get with you. I need some help one-on-one to get our terms and our insurance requirements so we can get this moving. Thank you.
have you talked to anyone on the Lake Lot Owners Board about this fencing?
No, I have not.
Why don't you talk to?
I was kind of hoping I could get my hands on the latest survey document so I can show everybody where the boundaries are. I don't think they've changed, but I have spent quite a bit of time looking through old documents
Well,
to
you know,
find.
that should be in with this, it could be in with this round of surveying they just did.
Yeah, I'm sure the benchmarks are all right where they've been for the last 50 years. It's just a question of finding.
Is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, I have a question for every board member here. It says Chairman Davis finalized the bid and purchasing policy on February the 17th. The District purchasing policy to each one on the board. There's a 16-page document that is scaled down, and Hans was involved in, scaled down from the county 60-something page document on purchasing procedures. And we took a couple of cuts at it way back under, and probably into September timeframe was the last time that was done. And so it's something that doesn't need to be taken lightly. So my question is, if you are a board trustee and you've studied this thing enough to be comfortable with accepting it, stick your hand up. I can't stick my hand up. I haven't reviewed it enough to do that, but we need to do that and make whatever changes are necessary. It's been through a couple of rounds of changes already, so there's not been one, apparently, so I don't know how we have done things in the past. I pick up on old emails and things where Wayne Flowers, our attorney at one point in time, would say, hey, y'all better be doing something purchasing wise, you know, so something would happen. So does anybody feel like you could vote on this purchasing policy that was in the February 17th email from the district secretary to each one of us? You could probably find it in other places too, but I'll tell you, I had to look for the darn thing about
We went over that.
Huh?
Didn't we go over that?
We've gone over it 2 times, and we revised it 2 times. It was Matt that was handling it. Then after our board changed in January, Matt said he didn't want nothing to do with it. So we never finalized it.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yeah.
Can we finalize it tonight? Okay,
Let's just,
I heard one no. Any other no's?
I'm a no.
Mike Clemens says no.
Let's just say we need to be prepared next meeting.
That's what I would
To vote on
suggest too.
this.
Who's got
The one,
the most recent copy? Because there's so many things out there right now. It's like, what are we, we're not.
Shouldn't it be the last one from Hans?
Should be right in our email.
Yeah, yeah, that one is the most recent copy. I mean, I only have one copy. It's just been updated each time. What I would say is if you're going to review it for the next meeting, that's fine. But you might want to also review the September meeting minutes. I mean, it's been 6 months now, so my recollection may be different. But everybody reviewed it then, and then I got an email with everybody's comments, and Matt had the most. And we discussed it at that meeting, and all those changes were implemented. And so what I don't recall is whether it was voted on and approved pending those changes.
No, it has not been approved.
Okay, well, then, I mean, you all can review it again, that's fine. I mean, you all have already done that 6 months ago, and then I got the list of all the comments and changes, and I made all those. And so the document you got on February 17th is that version after your review and all those revisions.
yeah, it was February 7th email, but it referenced September.
Yeah, right.
Review.
Well, that was the meeting where Matt went through, if you recall, I was sitting over there, Matt was next to me, he was going through all of it, and I was answering his comments and questions. And then I had my marching orders to make whatever revisions were talked about, and I did that.
Okay.
And so,
So please review it before the next meeting, and we will hopefully not spend more than 15 minutes at the most.
Alton, Janet and I weren't on the board at that time. You reckon you could send us the latest version so we'd have the
Yeah.
latest newly approved version?
Yeah. Why don't you just, Shirley, why don't you just send yours again? It was, yeah, to everybody. It was the date you sent it was February 17th from the district secretary. You were actually responding to a question from Carl, but you copied all of the board members, and that's what it was the purchasing policy.
I'll just go back and pull the purchasing policy.
It was dated September something.
Yeah, it's a file on my computer.
All right. Okay, so good enough on that? And then we'll put that on the agenda for next month. meeting protocol.
I don't think that I need to talk about that right now, because we seem like we're making our changes as we go, which is appropriate. I do want to have a minute to talk about our public records retention and disposition. It's going to come up very shortly, so if you want it not this meeting, I'll send everything I have out on it after going through those files back there for you, trying to find everything I could find. What I really find back there is that it looks like that someone has gone through and stripped the files, and the files that are there, there's empty folders, there's folders that says one thing and has something else in it. So we need a whole records retention project to get ourselves back in order, because very shortly we're going to have to agree that we've done something with our records. Plus, Shirley has as one of her job descriptions, district records person, and there's no way in the world she could be accountable for what's back there, because no one knows what's back there, and it's in a horrible shape and bad disorder. And we need, if we do that, we need to put it in what we keep and don't put online or basically electronically manage. We need it in a fireproof cabinet, period. Those back there are dysfunctional.
So these aren't locked?
No. Anybody in the whole world can go back there and clearly have gone back there and gone through. Plus, we are accountable to the state very shortly to give them an update on how we're keeping our records and what we've done as far as destroying anything we destroyed. So I don't know of anybody that could do that right now because. So all I'm saying to you is, when you ask me to look for something, I've spent 2 weeks off and on trying to find this something, and it's so destroyed back there that somebody needs to actually do a project, sort out all the records, because in one file you could have 5 or 6 topics not related. And this shouldn't come as a surprise. It's dysfunctional back there, so it needs to be done. I don't mind taking on the project, but it is a project that the whole group has to decide needs to be done.
I remember, I haven't been on the board but 2 years, and I remember discussions about buying locks and buying lockers and buying files and all that. So I guess that didn't happen.
No, and the locks back there, somebody at one point decided to have a locksmith come back there, and the locksmith can't fix it either. So there's a key that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work. And the sad part of it is, a lot of the information that we need now to put our hands on, we really can't find. And so it's a thing that we are accountable through our charter to keep track of and to do it properly, and we're accountable to the state for having done it, and we've done none of it.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think that there's more pieces to this puzzle, because there's some engineering drawings back there as
Yes.
well that I know we can scan them and move them to electronic format, but we also need a cloud-based server that's secure, where we can put these documents and they would meet the archival quality requirements of, I'm sure the state has similar requirements, but we can't just stick them on a computer somewhere and count on them to be there in 5 years.
This is rather like the dredging project.
Yes, it's
To get to
it's
what
going to be
you're
a big
talking
project.
about, you have to be able to sort it out. And
Yeah.
once you do that, you know what has to be kept and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you can either destroy it, scan it, whatever you want to do with it. But right now, it's a mess.
And that's not going to be a one-day job.
No, it's
It's
probably
going
a
to be,
two-week
it's
job.
going to be several days, and I can't do it alone because I don't know the history back there. And something that I think needs to be thrown out may need to be kept. So I do need at least one trustee to help me do that.
Well, would it make sense to just spend X dollars and get a new file cabinet or one of these laterals with 3 or 4 drawers that's lockable, and we can
It
reorganize
has
this
to be
stuff?
fireproof.
Yeah.
when it's all said and done. I think it's fine to talk about that, but before you talk about that, the first step is to get your records in order, to know what you have, and figure out what can go onto some sort of a server and what doesn't have to be gone there. So I don't want to put a lot of effort into this tonight. I'll send out all that I have found regarding this to everybody, and you can make up your mind what you want to do about it.
Well,
But we are legally accountable for it.
I'll volunteer to come bolt on something that will make that lockable, and we can proceed on that basis. I can do that. That's easy to do, because there's a mix of paper records, and I've found some of Tom's annual books from several years back that there's thumb drives stuck in there as well, and those need to be secured, or they need to be copied before they just disappear. So
Well, it's not just that, it's the whole mess.
well, I know, that's exactly what you're
We have 20 years
saying.
worth of records or more.
But you gotta start somewhere, and we need to start by locking it.
All right, I will, so that we can conclude this tonight, I'll send this out to everybody so that we all have the same information with a suggested plan of action. And then you can talk about it the next meeting.
So you put that down on the next one is records retention, is that what you call it? Records, organization, and retention?
Records retention is what I would call it.
Okay,
And I would volunteer to come help Carol and or Shirley or whoever makes sense.
Yeah, we need some people with historical knowledge
Yeah,
also.
yeah, I don't have the history, but I can tell you what's important engineering-wise and
Yeah.
otherwise.
Okay, I'll put it out. Everybody can then figure out if you want to do it or you don't.
all right. Have all prior board motions been completed?
For tonight?
All
Yes.
prior ones, okay. All right, new business. The one thing that I talked with, sent Tom a note, tried to push him a little bit and get the budget process started earlier.
That starts with the treasurer, not me.
Well, I sent it to you, I talked to you about it.
I understand that, but we have a treasurer now, and everything should go through the treasurer.
Okay. Madam Treasurer, can you make, can you add to our agenda for new business for the month of April, that we start reviewing the budget and provide us with this year, year-to-date, where we're at compared to the budget, and maybe the previous year, and then we can start to have discussions about the budget. I've already had discussions with Hanson, since they are gonna be the big ticket item probably for the next few years, about, look, Brian, you guys, we've gotta have a preliminary budget finished in June, and then we have to, and posted on the website, if I'm correct on this, and then we have to have a final budget voted on in July. So that's gonna be upon us before we know it, and I've asked Brian with Hanson to go ahead and be thinking about that and be providing input to us on, we're gonna start reviewing this thing in April. He needs to be weighing in on this very heavily, so.
Being a new treasurer, I don't know the possibilities of this. It sounds fabulous to me because there's nothing better than being prepared in my book. But let me converse with Tom and make sure that this is something that can be done.
Very good. And if you need some, my help on it, I'll be glad to. But the way we did it last year was kind of, it got blown out of proportion a little bit, I think, but we had, you've got like, where are we at on a year-to-date basis? Where does it look like we're gonna wind up? We're gonna be over, we're gonna be under, why are we gonna be over, why are we gonna be under? You know, as best we can tell, and then you've got some catch-all categories that, like the $500,000 that Tom mentioned, that's a catch-all category to make it a zero profit, business, which we are, so that's just a filler that fills in the, whatever money it needs to be to make that, net neutral, I think, so. Is that right? Okay. So is there any other new business for next month? We've already got, the drawdown that Tim needs to do. The retention, the meeting organization thing needs to be probably brought up again there. And then I would say this budget needs to be done too.
And the bid policy.
And the bid policy, right. Right. And obviously, I'm sure we'll have another update from Hanson. They've got most of their information from the surveyors. And the other thing we need to do, Carol, on the meeting protocol is these meetings, look, we're 8:35 now. We've been here for
2 hours. 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours. That's plenty long enough. It's actually, we need to shoot an hour and a half.
Some of us have been here 2.5, haven't we, Tom?
Yeah, but think about it. We need to do a little critique on it. And I'm not saying we do it right now, but if you critique, where did we waste all of our time tonight, or a lot of our time tonight? It's been one topic, and that's where we wasted it. And I don't think we accomplished anything on it significant anyway. So that's another problem, is we wasted a lot of time and we didn't get anywhere. But we've got to, I'd say that we have a timer clock, and that sucker goes off in an hour and a half, and there better be a good reason why we continue, and we continue 30 minutes max after that. This is not, we're not as effective as we need to be. It's probably my fault, but it's your fault you weren't here last month. Okay. Any other business? Any other discussion?
No, I just want to add that I am firmly in favor of having some kind of soft or hard stop time. Whatever that is, whatever y'all come up with, an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. If we don't cover it in an hour and a half, 2 hours, it needs to be on another meeting. Because we lose all the audience if we go late.
Well, look, we've got half the audience now that we had at the start, and we lost that in the last 30 minutes.
And just for the record tonight, I timed everything we talked about, the duration of the conversation. It wasn't water quality didn't wear us out. It was an hour.
Shouldn't go past 8:30, that's 2 hours.
Well, I'd say you shoot an hour and a half.
One thing that they do in the county commission meetings, which makes them, not that they're short either, but everybody who has something to discuss sends a copy to everybody before they get there, and people actually review it and know what's being talked about, as opposed to getting it in our new folder and then trying to figure out what we're supposed to do with it tonight when we arrive. So getting the information on time is important. That way we have an opinion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mike?
No,
Diane? Ron? Jerry? Tom? No. Tom? Jen? Jerry? Carol? Larry? Okay, and you made that motion?
You're out of order.
All in favor? Aye.